Welcome back to the show, guys. It is me, Steven, with another episode of On the Shelf. As I promised in my 2020 goals video, I actually wanted to try and go ahead and get 2 other videos done, as well as my best of and just absolutely hated list, and obviously surprise list, so I have a lot to get done. And so I wanted to go ahead and just jump into it, and I'll try not to make this review too long. But I wanted to talk about a game that is actually probably one of my Game of the Year contenders. Now, while you're watching this video, I pretty much have the lists figured out, but this is still one of my top 3 games this year. Whether it's my Game of the Year or not, it's still a contender, and it's definitely something I feel like you should check out, and I wanted to explain to you why. Now, The Outer Worlds is the newest game done by Obsidian, the guys who gave us amazing titles like Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, and their wonderful Pillars of Eternity series that they have going right now. Now, the studio was founded actually in June of 2003. So actually, believe it or not, when Knights of the Old Republic came out in, I think it was 2004, this game was instantly in production. So looking back on the success that that game had, and the lasting effect that it's had over the years, and how it's still reveled as one of the greater, one of the best Star Wars games, up there with obviously the original Knights of the Republic done by BioWare, and now the new Fallen Order that just came out here in November of last year now. Wow, it is 2020, holy crap. It actually makes it just that much more of an amazing title. Obsidian, as a studio, has about 200 people, and shockingly enough, I didn't really know this, but I feel like I should pass on the information to anybody watching this, but Obsidian actually nearly closed just a few years ago. Actually being saved by the first Pillars of Eternity, which they crowdfunded, and from there were able to kind of spark a resurgence and to be able to stay together as a studio. Now, obviously, we should never take for granted crowdfunded projects, and there are a lot of great crowdfunded projects that have come about over the last several years or so. And to know that it actually kept Obsidian around long enough to have Microsoft help them out and be a parent company so that way they can continue making great games and they can have success going forward is obviously great news. It's a great thing, and it's a testament to that crowdfunding not only can work, but it actually can help raise people up. Other great titles that come up when we're talking about crowdfunding are titles like Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. Both were crowdfunded, and both were easily some of the best RPGs ever made, let alone being, the Game of the Year contenders that they were. So now that we went ahead and got caught up on Obsidian a little bit, let's talk about the game, The Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds is the first original IP that they've had in a few years now. Like I said, obviously Pillars came out, I think it was 2015 was the original one. So now it's 2019, we have a brand new IP from them, and honestly, you can tell playing this game that this was definitely the successor that they had in New Vegas, where they had a lot of great ideas in New Vegas, and most people consider New Vegas being one of the greatest Fallouts ever, and some people not so much. There's still a lot of positivity behind that game because there were a lot of great things, and to be honest with you, considering the fact that they were rushed by Bethesda to make that game, and then also shafted by Bethesda after being made and having a great score but not quite great enough, it's good to see them be able to make their spiritual successor and make it where it's far better than New Vegas. It makes sure that it reminds you New Vegas' success was strictly from Obsidian and not an ounce from Bethesda. Positives for this game. I can go down a list of a million things, but let's talk about some of the key things here. The biggest thing is the storytelling. Now, obviously, like I said, with it being a spiritual success, New Vegas was really well known for its storytelling, for its side missions, and its characters. And here, it's no different. All with original characters, original ideas, and a story focused on trying to overthrow the corporation, something that can be still to this day, something that we can kind of take to heart, with corporations constantly monopolizing and constantly shafting people. Well, you always hear stories about companies like Amazon and companies like EA and companies like GM always screwing over their employees to try and make sure they squeeze out every last dime. I guess saying that my dad used to always tell me, and still tells me to this day, that companies like these are the companies that will sit there and jump over stacks of $100 bills to just go rummage through the couch for dimes and nickels. And very much so, that's the forefront of this story, is about the corporations and how you're trying to fight against them, or join them if you feel like the best move forward for yourself.
You aren't here for salt tuna.
Obviously, with a great story, it helps and it lends to itself having these great written characters. Not only as your own, being fully voice acted, and having a backstory that you help flesh out. It also helps out that most of the characters that you have, that you interact with, that you come into contact with, are really well done. They all have different personalities, different backgrounds, and they handle situations and the decisions that you make in their own unique ways. And it helps lend itself to help you be immersed in the story, and it help being immersed in this universe that they created. The VA work is phenomenal. I don't think I played a majority of the way through. I think I'm actually, if I remember straight, I'm actually at the ending. It's been a little while since I picked it up. I know I made all my notes and I wrote everything down, over the last month and a half. But I don't remember there ever being a moment where I sat there and was where I thought to myself, wow, that was a bad line, or that was really, really executed poorly. Most of the voice acting and most of the script are really good and really compelling, and they're really funny too. I mean, I think that's the one thing I always liked about New Vegas, is that there was a lot of humor, some of it really dark, and some of it more light and fluffy, and it very much is the same here. Actually, I would sit there and say that they definitely cranked it up with this game, having less restrictions being pushed down on them, that they really opened it up, and I think that there's a lot of sharp lines and a lot of sharp dialogue throughout this game.
Great! This is really gonna save my ass.
And with those NPCs and the characters and companions that you bring along with you, I believe, if I remember right, there's 6 total companions for the base game. Obviously, they have talked recently, and I think it was at the VAs, or right before the VAs, that there will be DLC going forward sometime in 2020. Obviously, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm assuming a lot of you are looking forward to that too. So who knows if they'll add a new character or something like that into the story. We'll see. But obviously, the 6 characters or so, 6 or 7 characters that we got are really, really good. Now, obviously, their excuses to join your adventure aren't always perfect. Sometimes they're just kind of thrown in there just to get everything going. But as you continue to learn more about these characters, you have conversations, and you take them on certain missions and they have dialogue with other characters, it tends to go ahead and lend to itself to really help flesh these characters out and make it where you care about an engineer who is actually asexual and gay. And you just don't get characters like that very often. Actually, I don't think I've ever heard of a character like that in any game. I don't think I've even heard of that in a movie. So the fact that they actually decided to go that route and to give her such a great personality and to really help you understand a perspective that most of us don't get an opportunity to see. So to help obviously tell an excellent story and to help push narrative and to help the choices are set up amazingly. Sometimes trying to give a more sympathetic view of corporations, but if you stick to your guns knowing that corporations are crap, they're just going to sit there and use people and throw them off to the side. There are some choices though that they do have serious bearings and they have serious consequences, and it feels very much like the choices that were given to us in New Vegas, and the fact that you feel the ripple effect, not just from that point of impact, but also further out toward the end of the game. Having certain meters that will actually sit there and gauge certain likeness or hate towards you from certain groups and corporations, and a meter that actually fills up both the likeness as well as the hate towards you from other groups and corporations. It's just great to know that the choices feel important. They're not just false choices like they were in Fallout 4. Fallout 4's biggest gripe from a lot of Fallout fans was that the choices didn't feel heavy-handed enough. They didn't feel like you were making a choice because of a moral compass or moral thought process and sticking with it because of that. You were just making random choices that it didn't really matter because the ending was very similar no matter what. It's very important that any game that has a choice mechanic, that has making decisions, they feel like they have, yes, consequences, but you feel like those consequences are necessary. That, hey, you know what, yeah, some people are going to get hurt, but more people are going to be saved because of this, or vice versa. Now, obviously, the one big ups from this versus like New Vegas is the fact that there are multiple planets to explore. I lost track. I think it's like 5 or 6 different planets. There might be a little more. 5 or 6 different planets to go ahead and explore and to see. And they all each feel different and vibrant, and they all each have their different factions and corporations and groups, and people who are struggling and people who are thriving on each planet that you have to make decisions and choices for. And each planet feels super fleshed out. Different lore and different characters are obviously found throughout. What also is great too is going back to the companions. Some of them you might not even run into on these planets. That if you don't find them wherever they are, you might go the entire game without ever finding them. And it goes back to, it's a little bit about your choice, but it's a lot about the exploration of each planet. And with each exploration of the planet, you obviously find new characters, new NPCs, new conflicts, and you find new story bits. And it makes it where exploring every inch of each planet is not only super important, but you want to do it because you want to know what else is out there. Whether it's some mythical creature, or some side quest waiting to be done, or some new character to find, or new NPC or new companion to add to your group and to help you along on your journey. I feel like actually with both this game and even Borderlands 3, they did this extremely well, making sure that each little inch of the planet, each little thing that you can explore feels worthy of your time. Now, the armor and the guns are fun. Most of the combat in this game is really good. It feels like you're not shooting pea shooters with really pretty much anything other than the pistol. And even then, you can upgrade pistols, you can upgrade any of the weapons, upgrade the armor, you can level them up, you can upgrade them, you can do certain things if you want. There's a particular set that you really like. Or if you want, you can always wait up to the best idea, honestly, is to always just kind of wait till you get, I'd say, like level 15, 20, and you'll start finding much better sets of not only just weapons, but also armor and gear. And you can start leveling those things up, and then they'll protect you better and whatnot. Obviously, though, with this game, as well as most games like it, there is degradation to both your weapons and your armor, where your armor will protect you less and your weapons will do less damage. I'll talk a little bit more than my negative, but obviously I'm not always a huge fan of this. But obviously if they feel like it's necessary, if they feel like that's a very important companion part to this, then obviously it is what it is. To me, it feels like with Metro Exodus, I didn't mind it as much because obviously the drop-off wasn't nearly as significant as quickly. Now there were drop-offs, and obviously eventually it'd sit there, your guns would start to jam, and your guns would sit there and, they would do obviously far less further down the line, but you didn't feel like you needed to piece them back together every 5 bad guys you killed. And now obviously it's not quite that bad with this game, but it's annoying enough that I always felt like I always had to stay on top of it. Always had to stay on top of it. Make sure I was maximizing my damage, and obviously making sure that I wasn't getting, my armor wasn't winding up like Swiss cheese. Maybe one day, I get that there's an upgrade system, and I get that there's, ways to improve your armor, but maybe one day we might go ahead and get a game that they don't have degradation. Maybe. We'll see. Now, obviously, leveling is a thing in this game, and it feels very rewarding. Now, you have the way that the charts work in this game is that you'll have rows of perks, and I think it's like 1 or 2 things, 2 rows for like level 1, for like a level 1. So basically, what it is it's not so much that I guess saying level 1 is misleading. I should say the first bracket. So first bracket, you need to pick up I think it's like 5 perks, and then it'll unlock the next one, and then the next one's like 7 perks or 10 perks. I don't remember how much it is exactly, but you keep going on and on. And you can pick perks in the previous bracket too, but all the perks feel like unique, and they feel some of them obviously feel a little more important than other ones, but for the most part I feel like it was handled really well. It makes it where you really stop and think, because you don't get perks every single level, it's like every other level, and so you really got to stop and think, where do I want it? But with each level you get to get points that you get to add to certain stat types, whether it's like maybe increasing your HP or increasing the amount of damage you do with long-range guns or short-range guns. Maybe with melee combat, whether your armor, how your armor holds up, stuff like that. And with each one, you'll go ahead and, as you level it up, once you get to level 50, you can continue maxing up after that, and you'll start to unlock certain like passive perks and stuff like that. So with leveling, it feels very rewarding, and it feels like, you always have choices to make, even there. When it's not even with your companions and NPCs, you gotta make choices on like how you're gonna build yourself up to make it where you can continue playing the playstyle that you want to play. And lastly, for the positives, obviously customization is a huge thing. Now this is something we always ask for, whether it's an RPG or even a lot of like MMOs or these like, I want to say shared worlds, but basically kind of like that, like games like Warframe, games like Destiny, games like so on and so forth. Fallout 4 was another one, Fallout 76, stuff like that. Customization is huge in this, and it's all earned in-game. None of it's sold to you with microtransactions, which is another big positive. Nothing's sold to you piecemeal. It's all earnable. And the more you continue to sit there and unlock more stuff, you can continue to mod out your armor and obviously stuff like that with, like I said, with upgrades and other perks and stuff like that. But then obviously, like I said, you get other customization bits too, and it all is just, it's a great package overall. You get a ton of content. The stories, if you shoot straight through, the story is probably I'd say maybe around 15 hours, but if you do a lot of the exploration, the side quests, make sure you find all your companions and do all the other stuff, honestly, you could probably see yourself getting 25, 30 hours or more of content, and for $60, it's a great deal. Honestly, this is one of the better RPGs that I've played probably, I don't want to say in the last couple of years, because Divinity Original Sin 2 was a really great game. And I'd say maybe that might still edge up just a little bit, but honestly the game oozes charm, and it is full of satire, and it's amazing with its characters and its world building. However, even with all these positives, and even though I could sit there and continue to talk on and on and on about the things that are so great about this game, there are a few negatives. Now, when the game first came out, there were a couple of annoying technical issues. Recently, they finally went ahead and patched one of them. There was one where certain characters were considered dead, like your characters, like your companions. So certain companions, when you're in combat, can fall. But once you clear out all the bad guys and everything, goes back to normal, they'll get back up and they'll start to heal. Well, there was a bug somewhere deep in the system that it got missed, and it happens. Absolutely, it happens. But it made it where certain characters were considered dead even though they were alive. And there were a few other small technical issues too that really kind of held the game back a little bit. Nothing major, but obviously it's enough to bring it up. Now, I know, like I said, I know they cleared up most of the issues. It's been a little bit since I played it, obviously, because there's other games I've been playing, I've been trying to keep up with, as well as obviously trying to handle my personal life. So I haven't been able to get back into it in a little while and finish it up and kind of see where it's at. For the most part, the game is pretty smooth. There's not a ton of issues, but like I said, I gotta point out the fact that there are a few annoying bugs that you might interact with. But the big negative for me personally, is just the fact that there's not a lot of uniqueness. Now, there is a lot of customization, there's a lot of upgrading, and there's a lot of things you can do, but really, I don't think my character's level 20 something, mid-20s, I think. And there's not a ton of unique looking guns. Even the guns that are named and you would think that are going to be more unique, and they do unique things. I'm not gonna lie, there's a gun that I got that shoots lightning. It's freaking dope, okay? But it doesn't look unique. It doesn't ooze something that was oh yeah, this is something that's very unique. With all the other things that they do right with this, like I said, with the upgrade system, it makes it where even when you start to get a little bit further in level than your gun, you can level your gun up and bring it up to your level, so that way you can still take out bad guys with it, which I think is amazing. I think that's awesome. And, and with some of these guns, they do really cool things, but there's no super unique perks to them. Some of them do have cool stuff to them. They'll have certain, little passive abilities on them, but there's nothing that is, worthy, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to, certain, almost legendary guns in a way. And the same can be kind of said about the armor. The armor, it has a little more uniqueness to it than the guns do. But even when you start to get like different like named guns, like I said, they don't look massively different from the guns that you were already picking up. Now, obviously, the perks are really the big thing. And I feel like they did get that right. But if they could sit there and continue adding more detail and adding more things to make the guns feel and look that much more different than the guns that you previously had, that would go a long way. And then really lastly, the menus are a little clunky. And that kind of goes back to the technical thing. But really, I mean, they can be a little bit clunky. And I mean, coming off of Fallout New Vegas, from all the upgrades that they've done with this game compared to something like Fallout, it's sad to really have it where the menu isn't that much more updated. The menus aren't absolutely horrendous, but they're not great. Sometimes they can be kind of confusing. It's going to take you a minute to be like, what is it looking? What is this? So really, the menus could always be done just a little bit better. So let's go ahead and let's wrap this up. Like I said, I didn't want to make this a super long video. I didn't get to do any skits for this video. I didn't get to do anything, really fun with the video, and I'm not cracking a ton of jokes. Or I just wanted to go ahead and get right into the review and just talk about what I wanted to talk about, what I really liked about it, and some of the things I hope that if they ever come up, obviously they're coming out with DLC for it, but I don't know if they'll ever do a sequel to this game or not. But if they ever do, these are the things that could always be changed and evolved. Other than that, though, like I said, great characters, great story, great companions, having everybody, fully voice acted, and the voice actors doing such a great job. They seem like they're having fun. They're delivering the lines really, really well. The script is super sharp. To sit there and have a satire on, corporations in today's world that we're living in right now, as well as giving us great combat and having, these really unique planets that you want to explore and you want to find and see every inch of. These are all great things that lend itself to make it where it's not just a spiritual successor to Fallout New Vegas. It makes it where, honestly, Obsidian has now given us a property that makes us forget about Fallout, and that's saying something because Fallout is beloved by so many. But considering that this game is devoid of the immense amount of bugs that Fallout seems to always ship out no matter how new it is, it's super important to point out that the Obsidian has given us the blueprint for the most part of how to do these first-person type RPGs. Something that Skyrim has held onto for so freaking long. That The Witcher 3 has done a great job of starting to pull away on, and now we have Obsidian with this new IP, The Outer Worlds, doing the same thing. And even with some of the the negatives, the few little negatives, a couple technical issues, the clunkiness of the menus, not having enough unique weaponry, it still doesn't hold it back from greatness. And this, to me, is still a gold standard for an RPG. So that's why I'm going to give The Outer Worlds by Obsidian Entertainment a 10 out of 10. Yeah, a legendary rating. That's the third one that I've given this year. And I know it seems like maybe I'm being, a little soft. Maybe I'm not being hard enough. But to be real with you, these are the types of games that we want. They're extremely fun. They're sharp. They give us characters that we would never be able to interact with or see in other games. There's, like I said, how many games has a asexual gay character in it? I can't think of any. And I mean, there's a lot of games that might have a gay character, or they might have an asexual character, or different color characters, different aliens, but nothing like this. And it gives us a unique perspective. It gives us a unique look and perspective at somebody that we would interact with in our daily lives. And I think it's super important. And, there's a lot of great characters that they have in this game. Overall, I'm just super pleased, honestly. Like I said, this game is fantastic. Worst case scenario, even if it isn't my game of the year, it's top 3 game. I mean, and it's one of the better games of the decade. It's definitely, if I had a top 10 list of all the games that have come out in the decade, it'd be up there. It'd be in my top 10 for sure. This game is really, really good. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, you should absolutely check it out. Yeah, I'm talking to somebody personally who, even though I've told him to check this out, he still hasn't. How dare you, sir? So that's it for me, guys. I'm going to let you go. Stay tuned. I'm going to try and get a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order review. If I can, that's still the goal. And then, obviously, my best of list, the games I hated the most list. I want to try to make sure I come up with a title that obviously I don't want to just say a worst list, because that's not entirely true, but it are games that I feel like just they made me angry, because whether they're like super greedy or they just really poorly put together, and and whether it's a management issue or a studio issue or whatever the case is, doesn't matter. These games shouldn't have been released to the public, and that's the point. And then obviously I have a special list that I have been putting together and I've been doing the research on, and I've been trying to, trying to piece it together. That was the hardest part, and you'll see soon enough what that is. But until then, I will see you guys on the next On the Shelf.